Today, we're gonna see my favorite adult fantasy standalones, the top 10. In this list, you'll find books that are at its core really different, both because the length is different, but also the setting, the touch that it has, the narration, starting with Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. It's a very character-driven book, and I remember getting into it very slowly. Like, you start because the ambience, it's so compelling, but you will be trapped because the depth that we will see to the characters, it's really amazing. It also has this fairy tale touch to it. Magic wise, there's going to be a soft magic system, and the ambience will be this very frosty wintering setting, and we will be following different points of view. But the main one is going to be of this girl that is starting to take the job of her family, who are actually the ones lending money but then taking also money. But she's starting to get a reputation of turning everything into silver, into gold, and this rumor gets into the ears of this winter god who will make a deal with our character. We really change scenery and prose with the Priory of the Orange Tree. For all of the books that we have in this list, this is the biggest one. It's a very descriptive and overall large book. It's going to be very plot driven, like a lot will happen. Yeah, we will have different points of view, which of course allow us to understand a little bit more of the characters, but there's so much going on. But what really amazed me about this book, it's its ability to really share a vision. Like, I'm not good at imagining stuff, but with this book it was so easy. Magic wise, there's going to be as well a soft magic system. One of the characters is going to be a sorcerer that has elemental magic. The setting here, it's kind of like a whole land, starting with the sea, but also then the mountains, then the city. There's an event, a prophecy that it's about to be fulfilled, and the story that unfolds here is how that prophecy is lived from these two sides of this world, the east and the west. We will see at times dragons, but it's not at its core a story where you see dragons kind of like in every day at every page, or they are like at the core element. The only reason why this is not more at the top is because some way I was not able to connect as much to the characters as I wanted. In the top 8, we have something that it's way more humorous, that it's very fast paced, but at the same time it allows us to understand the different characters, and it has such great moments, and that is Spiderlight by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This, it's at its core a very plot driven story. Like, honestly, so much is going on. There's a Lord of the Rings kind of a story, but just in 300 pages, so it's packed. We'll have these different characters, but again, soft magic system for the win. What made this book for me, it's one, the humor, very dark, and second, because it's written so freaking well. Spiderlight is gonna be a different point of view kind of a story. We have 6 different characters, kind of like different archetypes. We will have the warrior, the rogue, the priest, the wizard, that are embarking themselves on this quest because a great evil is emerging, and it's on them to stop it. But it does that in a way that will make you reflect. It really reminded me to Kings of the Wild. It has a lot of elements in common, like quest. It has a lot of humor, and it also has different characters. Very briefly, Kings of the Wild, it's just a story where we have this different band of people who they work together. They were conquering the world, you know, they beat monsters, but they retired, and the story will pick up with them being old and needing to start a new quest. In the 7th position, we have Legends and Lattes, a book that it's so cozy. The prompt, which is high fantasy with low stakes, it's incredibly accurate, and at the core of the story is that we will have this orc that is ditching her old warrior life, and she wants to establish a cafe. And that's it. But the magic of this book, it's how it will make you feel. The ambience is going to be this medieval village where you will see how our character is building this shop. There's wooden inside, there's a fire cracking. It's a book that it will just make you feel good. At its core is the idea of following someone that really loves something, and you know, you're seeing that person as it is chasing that dream. Whew. In the top 6, we will change and we will go to a lot of drama with Kaigen. It's also a new debut. In terms of magic, there's going to be just a hint of a soft magic system, and it's gonna have this historical setting. It's a retelling. The main element of this book is that Kaigen, it's in this mythology, one of the evil queens. It's a very character-driven story, but I was surprised to how much the story advanced because we will be following Kaigen through different stages of her life. We will see how she starts believing that the world is full of magic. She has a little bit of connection with the magic, and she understands that she is able to persuade people. She will start concealing and training this magic, but soon she will start realizing that the world is bigger, and then the role of the woman, it's not always that big. I thought it was so beautiful, so heart-wrenching, and reaching that top 5, we have Elantris, but also the Soul of the Emperor, which I know these are two different standalones, both by Brandon Sanderson. They're not even that similar, but they happen in the same world within the Cosmere, which somehow in my brain makes sense to have it together. Let's start with The Soul of the Emperor. It's a very short novella, like really you can read it in just an hour and a half, couple hours, and you will be surprised because it's deeply character driven for how little pages it has. We'll have a heart magic system where we will have in one hand blood magic, and in the other the ability that our character will have to inscribe things and pass a soul to them, to change them. And we will start this story with our girl finding herself in jail and realizing that her only chance to be kept alive is to do this one last task to craft the soul of the Emperor anew because he had an accident and he is blank. Really loved it, strangely emotional. And then we have Elantris, which was the first book that Brandon Sanderson wrote, and it tells also the first book that I read from him. I read it like 15 years ago in 2006. I just remember so clearly being in love with this story. It's a deeply political and religious story, which it's not in theory my cup of tea, but the characters are so well done. It has a hint of romance, and there's going to be also a little bit of magic, and we will follow 3 different points of view in this land where it seems that a terrible sickness is affecting. If you get that, you will become almost like a zombie, and we will start with the prince of this realm getting this sickness and getting expelled to Elantris, where he will find this crumbling city. Then we will also follow the story of this girl who is supposed to marry this prince, and she will need to navigate a lot of political intrigues. And lastly, we'll have the figure of this religious man coming into this land trying to convert everyone, otherwise war, it's gonna be raging. And in the top 4 we have Warbreaker, also by Brandon Sanderson. This is also a very good point to start with fantasy because it will touch a lot of different elements. It will have a heart magic system, we will see politics, we will see religion, we will see a little bit of romance, and it's written with a prose that it's so light, so fun. It has also a sentient sword, so it really has a lot of good elements, and I loved it with a burning passion. The setting is this almost medieval world where we have this kingdom that is threatened to war, and as a result the king has decided that one of his 2 daughters will need to marry this god king of the other kingdom in order to stop the war. But when the moment arrives and this daughter is supposed to be delivered to this god king who is supposed to be very powerful and no one really knows anything about him, he just chickens out and he decides to just turn away his least favorite daughter. So we have these 2 points of view of these 2 sisters that are trying to figure out what to do now. We'll also see another point of view which was deeply fascinating because deep in this land where the god king rules, we have different minor gods. These are people that if they died with a heroic death, they might rise up again and have a lot of magic, a lot of power. Magic here, by the way, it's a biochromatic breath, so they have the ability to store breaths and, you know, see colors, affect life. And this 3rd point of view is going to be of one of these minor gods who does not believe himself to be a god, which is hilarious. And so we will spend time with him, giving us a deeper look to the politics and also to the religion.
Chef's kiss.
And in the top 3 we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a relatively short standalone, but it's packed with such a paused and beautiful prose that you just want to savor it. It's this kind of book that you just want to spend like a lot of time with it, and you just want to die, want the drama. And it's a retelling of the story of Achilles, but it's told under the point of view of Patroclus. They meet when they're children and they will spend the majority of their lives together. The thing here is that Patroclus just adores Achilles, and he will see and convey to us as readers how bright a flame Achilles was, and who will spend a lot of time thinking about his destiny and how to create a mark in this world, but also knowing that there's a lot that he will need to sacrifice in order to achieve it. Beautiful from beginning to end. And in the top 2 we have Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Yes, this is the second Adrian Tchaikovsky book in this list because I am in a platonic relationship with him. He does not know. This is a story really light on magic. It will be placed in this historical setting. And although the original prompts were not kind of like a win for me, Jane Austen meets a war campaign, this is one of the best books that I've read this year. It has these different characters that are so difficult to forget, and we will start this story in this land where they know that there's a war unfolding, but everyone kind of like believes that they are gonna win it and that this is gonna end soon. However, years pass and this is not happening, and so although we start this story being able to pick up a little bit in the lives of our main characters as they go to these different balls, you know, like they have these dramatic relationships, soon everyone will start get drafted to war, and Argyle, as the older sister to this house, will find herself going to war. It's a little bit of a Pride and Prejudice kind of relationship, like people that are enemies, but there's this slow burn that it's honestly so to die for. Beautifully written, but there's just one #1 adult fantasy standalone for me, and that is Sword of Kaigen. I sobbed, I cried, I laughed, I made all my friends read it. It's this kind of book that if it clicks, it just clicks so much. I got hooked to that feeling, and since then I am chasing a book that will make me feel as good, as bad, and you know, as whole as when I read this book. It has a soft magic system based on elemental magic, which I loved. In this case, we will see mainly ice, and as main characters, we will have a mother and a son. This is a deeply character-driven story, but the action scenes are amazing, and it's kind of like looking very deeply into the story of this family, the Matsudas. They lived in this land called Kaigen, and they're kind of like the last resource against invasion. This is a nation-inspired story, and we will see how although in this whole land people it's advancing and they're leaving the samurai ways, in Kaigen they're still training their magic, and that's the core of this story. We will start seeing how a potential invasion is happening and how these different characters will need to level up to just face up whatever is happening. This is so beautiful. It was so profound. I just adore this book with such a burning passion. I hope you can see it. And if you want more standalone recommendations, this time based on moods, I will link here this video. Bye.